neutered or not. It's just going to be part of that dog's personality. Um, hey, Mama, could you not lick so loud? Um, yeah, I mean, but if they're marking in the house, if that's what you're getting at, if they're marking in the house, then you obviously can't let them have too much freedom in the house until you can until he knocks that off. If he's marking everywhere outside where you don't want him to mark, um, then you just have to be out there so you can correct him when he marks somewhere you don't want him to mark. But that's going to be a little tough anyway. Um, so I don't know. Is he marking in the house or not? I'm not so sure. Because one of my rules is when if a dog is going outside and I don't see that. Oh, so I had a client call me this week. Well, not a potential client, and they were telling me that the dog would not pee outside, but it would pee uh, when it got back inside. So simple fix: if you don't see the dog pee outside or poop outside, then the dog shouldn't have free roam of the house. Okay, so I'll put my dog back in the crate for about 10 minutes, and then I'll bring the dog back out um, to see if they pee and poop. If But don't let the dog back inside and have free roam of the house if the dog has not peed or pooped yet. That'll be setting you up for failure. All right, guys. Sorry for that interruption. So we're back live on YouTube. Something happened with my internet. I don't know what the heck happened, but we're back live now, and hopefully this doesn't shut off. But if it does, I don't know. You guys can head to YouTube and catch me there because I think YouTube is a little more reliable at this point. But those of you who are watching, feel free to ask any kind of question you like. I guess I've got some exciting things coming up, this summer. So there was someone who I had posted up a video. Hi mom. I posted up a treadmill video, a dog on a treadmill, and there was someone who really didn't like it whatsoever, and they expressed themselves very bad. I mean, very emotionally. My dog waits to make noise while I'm out on a live feed. Really? So anyway, I can see like when he was, this person was expressing how offended he was. That's what he said. He said he was offended by the treadmill video. Dog on the treadmill. He said he was offended. All right. I could see where that person looking from the outside could maybe potentially think that it's not safe, you know. Um, but you know, and, and there's a little bit of kind of criticism that would go towards him from me because he just totally acted on rushed to judgment, so to speak, and just negatively spoke about his concerns. Okay, that's fine. But all you have to do is click on the link of the video that I posted, and I'll show you how to get to that step. So that's a 3 or 4 day step. It's not just I throw dogs on a treadmill and let them have at it. So that was interesting. So for those of you who don't know, the treadmill training is a very intricate process. And yes, it was the little beautiful little pit that was going 1.5 miles an hour, and someone really expressed their displeasure for the safety of this dog, and they were very offended. So yeah, but you'll have that. All right, let's go to another question. Okay, let's see. Wow. Do you guys hear that snoring? Holy smokes. My dog is snoring his ass off. All right. On a walk, how do you keep the dog beside you? I can keep the dog beside me, but I always have to pull on the leash to slow the dog down. Great question. So one of the things that your dog has to understand is that the dog has to heal, right? And so some dogs are more stubborn than others and will need a little bit more help or physicality or direction in that circumstance in order to understand that the dog has a job to do on the walk, and the job is to walk by your side loose leash. Okay, one of the things you can do is anticipate the dog going to pull. You know, once you pull back, the dog's going to go right back forward. You anticipate that and stop before the dog gains momentum because it'll help, and it'll help uh, not have to be so tough or rough in regards to pulling back on the dog. So anticipate the dog moving forward, trying to get in front of you, and catch it before it happens. Being proactive before the dog gets in front of you, because once it gets in front of you, it's harder to pull you back. The other thing is you want to make sure you're using a tool that makes your life a little easier. Um, Gentle leader is a good tool. Prong collar is a good tool, and a slip lead is a good tool. Harnesses, no good, not for pulling. Well, they are good for pulling. They're not good for not pulling. Uh, and just a regular flat collar and a leash, not good for loose leash walking. Okay, so make sure you have the right equipment and the right technique. All right. There's a video I have on my YouTube channel that it will explain the correct equipment and also explain the correct technique that you need to have a loose leash walking dog. All right. Thank you for your question. Feel free to ask another one. All right, guys. So, medication. Um, I'll post a link to that video that I was speaking of about how to walk on this thread after we're done here. Actually, can probably do it now, but I'll kind of work on it as I'm talking. See if it works. But all right. So, oh man, I'm very passionate about this medication thing. And this is only in regards to anxiety, calming, things like that. It sort of seems that the industry, the vets, the veterinarians, they all push to try and make anything as a to remedy effort. Okay, so if you break down the word exercise, right, it actually means the release of anxiety, right? So I went ahead and looked up the word, what the word meant, and uh, the word exercise means the release of anxiety. And I was just watching a certain podcast, and they were talking about, what did they say? Something like 20% of all children have been diagnosed with ADHD. 20%. And they said something like, what was it was like in the, was it 60 something million children are diagnosed with ADHD. And then I watched a video on Facebook where this little boy was kept getting in trouble in class, and so his dad made him run a mile to school because he was getting in trouble on the bus. So his dad made him walk a mile or run a mile to school, and ever since he's been doing that, there has been no trouble. All right, and so I see a lot of similarities uh, between a lot of dogs that I train come in with medication, calming medication, anxiety medication, certain things to help them deal with the energy or anxiety that the dog brings. But we have to first diagnose um, how much exercise is the dog getting, not just physically though. How much exercise is the dog getting mentally too? Because exercise for a lab or even German shepherds, you can play ball with them all day long, and it won't do make a difference. They'll still be just as anxious. Um, and so I always one of the things I do teach people here to do is I always ask them actually if they would like me to wean their dog off of the medication and see if what I can provide helps them become calm uh, without the medication. And I have to say I've never really had a dog that uh, I would I I recommend that they stay on medication. All right. I, for example, you guys probably saw that last dog, Chief, that I trained, German Shepherd, super high energy, super high anxiety, uh, quite aggressive with territorial aggression. Um, so I wanted to sort of prove to the owners just how much mental work can take a toll on the dog. Okay, so what we did was when they went and picked up the dog, when they came and picked up the dog, I didn't. I purposely, it was early in the day, so I purposely didn't really exercise, and we went outside for a while, but I didn't give him physical exercise because I wanted them to see Chief off of meds, full energy, and be able to listen to me and take direction and show that the dog can be controlled without meds and without being exercised physically. So one of the things that we do when we go home or during our go home session, one of the things that I teach is we'll have two dog beds, and then we'll jump a dog from bed to bed with a few commands. Come on your bed, sit down, stay. Those are like all four, five commands all in one exercise. Sometimes we don't say sit, sometimes we just say on your bed, down, stay. Come on your bed, down, stay. That's pretty much what we do. So we did that a few times with Chief, and we also taught the walk. And I think we may have done treadmill, but maybe just about 3 minutes of treadmill. All right. So um, we did that all that little stuff. Then the dog fell asleep on the bed. Like the dog was that worn out mentally from just doing a little bit of that. So perfect example to show the owners that if you're, you know, not just challenging the dog mentally, but giving the dog a job that it understands that it has to do, that's going to help with um, many things. But one of them is being able to control its impulses, because I definitely think if you have a very hyperactive dog, and you've never sort of shown the dog or taught the dog to be calm, I, I wonder that the dog actually, you know, is a healthy dog in overall, because because I think it's a very uh, physically healthy thing to be able to get your dog to relax on command, as opposed to stressing out at a moment's notice, and or having multiple things get the dog to divulge in their own impulses. You know, there's many dogs that a car will set them off, mailman, another dog, another another human, a garage door opening, obviously a door opening, a doorbell ringing, a dog barking in the distance, people talking in the distance. You know, there are people who actually live with their dog, um, and all those things set the dog off. All right, and those are the dogs that come to me that are on meds. So, um, so I want to really reiterate how important it is that we are giving our dogs mental exercise as well as physical exercise, because again, what exercise actually means is the release of anxiety. Okay. All right. Got some more questions or comments. Let's see. Just listen to your UIDB interview, and it was awesome. Thanks for the excellent content. Thank you, Chrissy. I really appreciate that. It was an honor to do it. I was very happy to be a part of it. And so, what she's talking about is I did an interview with understanding your dog's behavior and this wonderful company out of San Diego, California, which we're trying to set up a seminar out there as we speak. And with them. Um, but anyway, interviewed for about 45 minutes, and just talked about where I'm from and all that good stuff. And um, so, if any of you guys are interested in learning about or hearing about that, it's not just me either. It's many different dog experts around the country, and in many different industries too. So there's veterinarians on there. There's raw food. Um, there's just so many different you know other dog trainers around the world too, not just in the United States. But um, I will be listening to that for my own benefit as well. So if you get a chance to and you guys are interested, just type in "understanding your dog's behavior" and with Cameron Thompson, and try and listen to some of the dog trainers and experts on that panel. It'll be very informational, because there's just a lot of different perspectives that provides. Okay. Mental stimulation is often more important and exhausting than physical training. Yes, because and this is sort of cool what I do with the clients. But back when I used to do private lessons, I told them this. I said, I guarantee you, we'll take a walk. We'll take the slowest walk that the dog's ever had, and we'll literally come back. I'll teach the dog the place command, and the dog will fall asleep, guaranteed. And they can't believe it, because they don't know how to. They're constantly giving in to the dog as far as what the dog thinks it wants, right? And which means play ball, play ball, play ball. No, they're like, no, this dog can play for hours. It'll never go out of energy. Okay, yeah, watch. All right, let's take him on a walk, and let's bring him back and put him on his bed. And sure enough, I haven't had a dog that has not gotten drowsy. Um, it's kind of cool. So, but that's all mental. It's the same thing of when I'm done. When I have my go home sessions with all my clients, uh, I I I have to explain so much, right? And I have to think so much that at the end of the day, I'm very, very, very exhausted because I use so much of my brain. It's like taking like a big test or something like that. You're pretty tired afterwards. So, oh, awesome! Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that. So Lisa just posted up a link to that dog trainer summit. So you guys are interested? It's right there. You guys can grab it. Thanks, Lisa. I appreciate it. And thank you, Chrissy, for correcting unleash your dog's best, not behavior. Best. All right. All right. If any of you guys who are just joining in on YouTube and or Facebook Live, you guys have any questions, it can be about dog behavior. It can also be about business, dog training business. It can be about all that. I do think that I run my business a little different than most dog trainers. And I'm having a couple of shadow students actually this summer come and they want to learn more about some dog training. We do have a shadow program, but it's kind of a customized deal where we don't have constantly students coming in and out. I usually like to take breaks after them because they are exhausting. Okay, because you have to worry about giving the dogs exactly what they need, but you also want to worry about giving the students exactly what they need as well. Oh, Jen, I'm sorry. I knew I saw that question, but I didn't even. All right, here we go. Let's get Jen's question. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, Jen. If a dog will bite when it's frustrated or pressured to do something it doesn't like, how would you work it to give how would you work it to give it that job that it has to do? Okay, Jen, remember this. When you uh, are trying to get a dog to do something, the dog, if it doesn't want to do it, will try different things in order for it not to happen. And so, what we have to remember is that when we're giving the dog something that's non negotiable, we have to work through the dog's best attempt to manipulate the situation to their advantage. Doesn't want to do it. It's like with a lot of dogs that don't like their nails being done, they can resort to biting. A lot of dogs that don't like to be walked a certain way, they can resort to biting. A lot of dogs that don't like to be bathed, they can resort to biting. Why? Because most people will back off after they use their best weapon. And you should because you don't want to get hurt. But there are ways. So um, there's different strategies around it. But overall, you have to work through that somehow. So why don't you tell me your specific situation? If you don't feel like telling me on here, that's fine. You can DM me. Um, but but depends on the situation because there's definitely ways to work around every single protest. But overall, once again, I am and I will teach, and I do believe that there is at their core, when you're working with an animal, there are risks that they weigh out, and it's a give and take kind of deal. Okay, so um, if if a dog, well, a dog they don't try to bite me. But if I have a dog that is being difficult in a certain way, what we have to relay to the dog is that this your way of manipulating this issue is just not going to work for you. Okay, and that you can address before the dog decides to use its teeth, because they can protest in different ways, and you can get the message across to them that will that will make them rethink the so it won't even make it to the biting situation, if you know what I mean. Um, it's not my dog, it's a bigger pit that will bite whenever there is leash pressure or when it sees other dogs. It will redirect onto humans. It broke a prong collar trying to get to a dog. Yeah, yeah. You know, that's just a whole bunch of frustration. It's a whole bunch of frustration. It's a whole bunch of attention. It's a whole bunch of stress going on between the dog, the situation, and the human. Um, those dogs are they're a little different. Now, if you have a chew on what they would call a blind, so they had the blind, and so when you're with dogs and shits, and there's a blind, right? And then there's a helper. So say my thumb is the helper, um, and so the dog comes around, and we usually when we were teaching this dog, we had the dog on leash, but the dog wanted to get to the helper so bad, and when it couldn't, it started to chew on the wood of the blind. The blind was wood, and a lot of blinds aren't nowadays. That they're nylon, but these are permanent blinds that you can find in the club. And so the dog wanted to get to the helper. The dog's coming from behind. Here's the blind, right? Dog's coming from this way. Comes around the blind to find the helper, and then the owner stops the dog from getting to the helper or the person that the dog is supposed to bite. And so once the dog stops there, because the dog wants this human so bad and can't get to it, just like how that dog wants to get to that other dog on leash and can't get to it because of the tension on leash, because of the stress of the owner and the stress of the situation not being able to get to the helper, the dog starts to cope with their anxiety and all that stress by chewing on something, specifically German Shepherds, because that they are the majority of the dogs that work. Um, but I've also seen cattle dogs do that. Like they can't really help it. Like biting is their way to release all that stress and tension. So that's what some of the dogs. That's why some of the dogs choose to redirect. They have to release some sort of something when it comes to not getting what they want, because they're not getting what they want, or they're not getting what they think they need, which is that other dog. um, and then there's just a whole bunch of again, stress and tension between all the whole situation. And so um, there's a couple of things that you can do uh, to to help that dog see that. So, for example, let's just go back to that cattle dog, and tell you what I did. But I don't really recommend it unless you work with a professional, because it's sort of a. Oh, I also had a cane corso do that to me as well. Would try to redirect if it couldn't get to the dog on a very short leash. So what we did with both the cattle dog was car, we would like to lunge after cars, right? So one of the things we did, and again, I wouldn't recommend trying this unless you're trying it with a professional. But one of the things I like to do, if I know the dog is, you know, really, uncomfortable with all of that being close and tension and all that, is I'll put the dog on a retractable leash, e-collar, retractable leash, and I'll put the prong collar on. But I'll have all those three things, right? And then I'll obviously keep a safe distance between the cars, and or the other dogs. And I was telling Elias this as well, who's actually watching. But once you give the dog more of an option to choose what he thinks he needs, which is the car, to lunge at the car or to lunge at the dog, and you start seeing the dog make different choices. You start seeing the dog go, hmm, where's all that tension? And so you can do this in a sort of and it's risky if a dog is redirecting, but you can do this just going to the end of the leash and e-collar healing the dog, as opposed to trying to get the dog to heel with your leash, right? Corrections. E-collar, heel the dog, loose leash, make the leash go in an L or a J kind of deal, loose leash, and see if the dog then reacts or redirects. For safety, you could use a muzzle, but it's amazing to me sometimes how if you give the dog a little bit more freedom to make a choice, it chooses not to do it. But if they know that they have the safety of you holding them back, then they may become more animated in trying to get after that dog. So there's a couple other things. There's a few things that you can do. All right. Thanks for your question, Jen, as always. All right, Jeremy, my dog loves a bite pillow. He does get dog reactive on a leash. Would I be creating a bigger problem by exposing bite pillow when he sees the dog? I don't think you would make a bigger problem. Not at all. I don't think it would cause your dog to be more reactive on leash if you brought a bite pillow while you walk. Think it if the dog thinks it's fun, then why not try to have some fun on the walk? You're welcome, Jen. Thanks for watching. So yeah, bite work. Bite work. Bite work is very good for dogs. Okay, I think I missed a question though. Amy, I listened to. No, that was I already saw that. Wait, no, I listened to understanding your dog, or no, unleash your dog's best this morning on our morning walk. Nicely done. Thank you. YouTube is still vertical. What? I switched the angle. Anyhow, my question is, my current foster is a young pit mix, and he likes to use his paws a lot. How do I correct this? I believe this was the reason he was returned after 24 hours, because he scratched like a child. Any ideas? How's he scratching? When is he scratching? What is he scratching for? He's doing it for something. So it may be your attention, or something like that. But if he's doing it for your attention, give the dog something that he doesn't like, and then he'll stop doing it. Um, Try a water bottle to be very basic. You can try a doggy don't, pet convincer, e-collar. But I have a German Shepherd who I'm working right now, who's collar aggressive, or not collar aggressive. I mean, just bites hands and wrists when you try and handle him by the collar, taking collars on and off, and so same sort of thing. The dog gets a little wiggly. He wants to try and manipulate the situation to his convenience, his comfort, and he uses his teeth. And um, being that I've dealt with this for a long time and know all the tricks a dog can actually physically do, I avoid getting bit, but also teach the dog that, hey, this is going to happen. This has to happen. I have to be able to take collars on and off. I have to be able to, leash you up and walk. And you also have to be able to be calm while doing all this. You can't be squirmy. The vets will definitely appreciate that. I have an American Bulldog pit mix that loves his paws, that loves to use his paws and bite work when I'm training. What can I do to stop him from doing it? That loves to use his paws and bite work. And when I'm training him, what can I do to stop it? So if he's using his paws when you're doing bite work, this is different. Okay, Amy, don't listen to this advice when it comes to your dog. But when you're doing bite work and the dog is using its paws, what we used to do is take the rubber stick, the one that um, you use to get him used to a stick hit, right? Just a rubber stick. I used to have him on the sleeve, have a dog on the sleeve. He used his paws, and I just swipe underneath, just hit his paws with the padded stick a couple times. You know what I mean? That's one of the ways that we used to. I used to have a Doberman that used to love putting his paws on the person, and the reason why you don't want to have your dog put his paws on you while you're doing bite work is because then they are free to loosen up the grip. And the grip is the last thing you want your dog to loosen up on. You want the dog's paws to be hanging so that it uses its grip to its full potential. Okay, so that's why we discouraged. There's a lot of clubs and a lot of people who won't mind it, right? But we want the dog to use its bite to its full potential and the right way. And so, if the dog is allowed to put its paws on you, then it's free to sort of loosen up the bite. Does that make sense? Let me know if I'm totally going the wrong direction because I didn't really understand the question. Okay, great, good. Yeah, just take the padded stick and swipe him up a little bit. That's what I would do. Yep. And when he does decide to tuck those paws, give him a good boy. Okay. All right. Usually it's when he's in a sit and then he puts his paws on you when you're giving him attention. Yeah, I figured it was for attention. Um, just stop giving him attention. When he does it, just tell him no. All right, and pet him. If he decides to put his paws down, if he puts his paw back up, tell him no. Stop petting until he puts his paw back down, and repeat that process. Same process again that I was explaining about the German Shepherd. Do the same thing. When he stops, trying to do all this crap, then I'm telling him good boy, and there's little to no, tension. But um, you can also remind him to sit too when he starts to get antsy like that as well. You know what I mean? Remind the dog to sit and just kind of be calm. But I do believe every dog should have the ability to, when you grab the dog's collar, because you may have to do these things in the real world, the dog should become calm as soon as you grab the collar. And you should be able to guide the dog in and out of rooms and all this good stuff without too much protest. All right? Lindsay says, "Hey Jeremy, love all that you do. I am a trainer in Pittsburgh and want to know your safety protocol for creating an aggressive dog that resists leash pressure and puts on the brakes. Thank you so much." All right, Lindsay, a couple of different ways, depending on how big the dog is. Um, you know, I am one that will take the time to let the dog decide to go in. But you can also bypass that. I mean, you can just throw the dog in the crate. But yeah, so it's a bigger dog, okay? Um, but okay, so let me ask you this: is the dog crate aggressive or aggressive in general? Because those can be separate issues. So if you're afraid of the dog biting you outside of the kennel, then there's a different approach versus he's just aggressive when he's in the kennel. You know what I mean? because I had a dog who was just aggressive no matter what, and um, there's a different approach, safer approach to getting the dog into the crate. Didn't get to review it yet, but congrats on your Unleash Your Dog's Best today. Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate it. Um, so if the dog, let's just say the dog is aggressive outside, not crate trained at all, a little bratty. Okay, so let's just say he's bratty. All right, and let's just say he may bite you in refusal to go into the crate. Um, One of the things you can do is attach a longer leash. So I would say he's going into the crate with the leash on until he knows that he has to be able to go in there, right? If you're afraid to grab his collar and sort of put him in there. Um, so that's the first thing I do with the dogs that are here that I know that are human aggressive. I take them from the leash, short leash, and I bring them to the crate, and I say in, and I sort of give them a nudge, and depending on the dog, if they're really backing out, I will keep that pressure on the leash tension on and continue to say in. Right, I'll kind of lock my hands on the top of the crate so the leash is from the crate to the dog. I'll lock my hand there, and we'll just wait there. And if he gives a little bit, I'll shorten up the leash, right, so that there's always constant tension. But more so than that, I am talking to the dog. Okay, so I'm talking to the dog intermittently throughout this process. Tension on the leash, hand locked on the crate, in, because it's I feel really strongly about this, but I want the dog to make the choice to listen to me and walk into the crate as opposed to shoving the dog into the crate. Not to say that that ain't gonna work overall, but that's a that's a short term kind of fix. Whereas the dog will not challenge you um, very quickly. The challenge will dissolve if you allow the dog to say, "All right, fine, we're not going anywhere else. This isn't going to work for me. Okay, well, might as well walk into the crate." That's where I kind of stay. So, um, again, leash on, even I'll have the leash prong on and all that, just to teach that the dog has to go into the crate, and then leave him in there for a couple minutes. Bring the dog out. Try it right back again. I had like I said, the last biggest dog that I had was a Cane Corso, and he was so strong that I could not even hold him like I was just describing. So what I did was attached another long leash to the end of his long leash, fed it through the crate through the back, and then kind of just used it as like a pulley system, right? So I'd be pulling on this side, and basically he then went inside the crate, and then I pulled him in that way. You can also try that, but this is again for a dog that uh, I guess refuses to get into the crate. Not crate trained at all. A little bratty and fear aggressive. So yeah, yeah. He will refuse. He'll be more likely to refuse the pressure if the prong collar is on as well. So make sure that's on. Hope that makes sense. But yeah, do that with every dog that sort of refuses to go. The other thing is this, after about 3 or 4 days of showing the dog that it has to go in there, the dog should then be able to go in and out of the crate off leash. And if there's refusal there, then you have to sort of put pressure on the dog outside of the crate and sort of make the crate a good place to be or a better place to be. Um, for example, I have this dog who has a lot of anxiety, and she really makes a decision whether to go on my couch or in the crate. Every single night. It's she glances at that couch, and I'm like, ah, and then she goes in the crate because she knows that if she gets on that couch, then I'm going to put some pressure on her to get into that crate. So it's all about again making them weigh their options as well. So just be consistent, but again, the fastest way to get a dog to stop refusing is to allow them, even at those very small moments, to make better choices or to see that their choices are limited, but still give them choice in the matter, as opposed to just shoving them in there, because that's just physical manipulation, as opposed to allowing them to make some sort of good choice. Bite work with a 3 month old puppy. Bite work with a 3 month old puppy. You can do bite work with a dog that's weeks old. Weeks old. Doesn't matter how old they are. Just depends on if they have the drive or not. If you have to build it or not. But bite work, is can come from just using a rag or a sock or a toy. All of it's bite work because they all bite all that. Anything the dog bites, you can use it as bite work. If it you can do bite work with a tennis ball. They're biting it, so you can do the same sort of exercises and principles that you use when they're biting a sleeve, uh, anything like that. So yeah, bite work at any age is appropriate. Obviously, what you use, since the teeth are growing or since the teeth are fragile, then you have to mind what you're using. Shout out to hernia movers. This is my this is a moving shirt. I used to part time work for a moving company at the same time as training dogs. Hernia Movers is a moving company out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So if I got anybody who's watching from Milwaukee and you got to move, hire Hernia. They're awesome. The potentate of Toten Freight. That's a free plug, by the way, just because I love that company. All right. Anyway, whoa, it's 7-Eleven. My dogs have high prey drive. Good. That means that we'll have fun with them. Um, all right, guys, get your last questions in if you have any, okay? If you don't, that's fine too. But if you have some last questions, feel free. Oh, thank you. That was helpful. I do not want to shove him in there. I just got him today, and I like your approach. I have been putting him in a large kennel in the meantime just to keep him contained, but it's big enough for him to pace. Thank you. You're welcome. And let me know how it goes. Keep me updated. Appreciate your comments, Lindsay. Appreciate it. All right, guys, I'm going to get off here. But before you go, please subscribe or give me a thumbs up or hearts or whatever that is if you enjoyed it. I really appreciate you guys watching. We will be here the same time next week. And I'm going to start trying to interview some people, okay? So they got this whole new Facebook Live thing where you can add in a person. I want to start doing that. I want to start interviewing some different characters. So stay tuned for that, and I appreciate all the love and watching and all that good stuff. Much love. Bye bye.